is the Pac-12 still a viable conference? And I got to tell you, I don't think it is. We told you on this show yesterday morning before the Board of Regents met. In fact, if you go back to Tuesday night, I was tweeting numbers that sources had told me added up to what, the Pac-12 was able to get from ESPN in their TV rights deal. And that was about $30 million per season, give or take.
Right.
And that was going to be a $300 million deal over 5 years. And that was the maximum that ESPN and Fox were willing to pay for first and second tier rights. And that ESPN wanted 2 Pac-12 After Dark late games, one for TVRadio.com and one for ESPN Plus, the ESPN app. And that Fox wanted the premier early window game. Okay, cool. People said I was stupid, that I was only on, YouTube because I'm good looking. Like, it was amazing, right?
Yeah.
And then yesterday, and Jake, I want to put up this tweet.
Right.
Because I think, again, we all know that it is true. That I am indeed good looking.
I saw it.
I think we can all agree with that.
Right.
But apparently, I also have good information because Stuart Mandel yesterday from Sports Illustrated, I believe, or The Athletic, I could be wrong. Stuart was live tweeting the University of California Board of Regents meeting.
Right.
And if you look at what Stuart Mandel tweeted in a report, the president of the University of California system says that, hey, the TV rights deal is only worth $350 million because USC is leaving the conference with UCLA.
Is this the dagger?
My God, Jake, we actually, have an idea of what we're talking about.
I mean, we're still doing this in my basement, but we know what we're talking about.
That's what Ute fans were saying, that we had no idea what we were talking about.
Right.
But there's some interesting stuff in here. Look at this from the LA Times. This is a screen grab from the LA Times. And I'll read this for you because I think this is really important. Switching conferences is expected to significantly improve UCLA's athletic department finances while increasing the size of its recruiting base and enhancing its brand in rapidly shifting college sports landscape. Now, here's the important part. Before a recent court settlement with Under Armour, the Bruins athletic department was saddled with a $102.8 million deficit. UCLA also faced the prospect of cutting Olympic sports teams in years to come had the school remained in the Pac-12, whose revenue has fallen well behind that of its counterparts in other parts of the country. That is directly from the LA Times.
Yeah.
The Pac-12 is dead. And again, I don't think we're painting dire pictures here. What we found out yesterday is that according to the University of California Board of Regents, it's over. Because UCLA is worth a very small sum. USC on its own is worth 30% of the Pac-12's TV revenue.
Facts.
30%.
Just some, small chunk, right?
30% of the Pac-12's TV revenue. And when you lose USC and UCLA, you're losing $130 million a year in TV revenue. That's $13 million per remaining school of the 10 remaining. It's over. There's no way for this to be viable. And the whole reason that the University of California Board of Regents is meeting is because they're trying to figure out if they can force UCLA to stay in the Pac-12. Because without UCLA and without the Los Angeles television market, the University of California at Berkeley, their athletic department likely is insolvent. They have massive debt on Memorial Stadium, which they just renovated several years ago. that they are trying to pay off. They are already hemorrhaging money because their football program has been terrible. They don't sell tickets. And by the way, I'd also remind you, these numbers do not include ticket sales.
Yeah.
And ticket sales related revenue. It's over in the Pac-12, Jake. I don't see any way that they can survive.
Yeah, I was brainstorming last night trying to figure out, well, what's the solution here? What else do you do? Because I agree, I don't know, what the path to survival is other than an influx of private money. That's the only other thing that I could think of. Hey, a booster came through for your individual school. A booster came through for Cal and help them, or something in the private sector that kind of bridge that gap from where you are now to where you need to be. That's the only thing that I think could really help them or really keep them viable. I completely agree. I don't know what else you do. I mean, this is what happens, again, when you spend a decade or maybe even more than that not doing your job and allowing people, like Larry Scott and the older regime to do what they did. And I know, hey, it's SC's fault. Hey, if SC had been better, okay, cool, great. But the fact is SC, this isn't SC's problem anymore, right? SC is not, they're out. They're gone. There's nothing you're doing about them because they're a private school. So you don't have a board of regents that governs your school. You're private. You can do what you want. So the point is that I just think it's high time to stop talking about oh, well, man, if SC had done this or done that, or if they hadn't left, well, I got news, they did leave, and you can't do anything about that.
No.
And it's time to figure out how exactly you're going to survive, because it's not just that you're in a financial hole or that you're behind the curve from these other schools. Many of these schools left in the Pac-12 have debt load, and that's the problem. That's a huge deal.
And it's because you've lost so much money.
Yeah.
Over the last 10 years in the Pac-12, the money you have not made has put a lot of these schools in a hole. I mean, you're talking about UCLA, the University of California at Los Angeles, a massive institution, that was essentially bankrupt athletically and had to sue Under Armour, who pulled out. And the only way that they were able to survive on a baseline level was to win that lawsuit. There's no doubt that they are going to the Big Ten, not because it's a cash grab, but because it's the only way that they can survive. And I think that's the thing that people are not accounting for. This is not an issue of just, well, they just wanted to make more money. Guy, this is an issue of survival athletically.
Yes.
There is a chance, in my opinion, there's a chance that the University of California at Berkeley is really athletically, they're insolvent. They're bankrupt.
Yeah.
They cannot afford to have Olympic sports. They can't afford to have rowing. They can't afford to have track.
No, I guess not.
They're in real trouble. And without UCLA, they're in even more trouble. And my question is, what is going on with Utah? Utah has an Under Armour deal, obviously, but you're looking at a situation with Utah where you have to make a move now. And I want to put up this graphic that we showed you a couple of weeks ago about Kyle Whittingham and what Kyle Whittingham said about the here and the now.
Right.
Kyle Whittingham said, quote, "It's important for the Pac-12 to make noise on the national scene whenever we get opportunities like that. We have to make the most of it. If you want to gain respect, gain national attention, you got to come out and win some of those games.
Yes.
Hopefully we can go down to there to Florida and play like we're capable of." That is Utah head coach Kyle Whittingham talking about how important it is that they go to Florida and win. And I want to put up this Stuart Mandel tweet again because I think this is the essence of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
A new TV deal was estimated to be worth $500 million a year. So USC's departure dropped it to $350 million, a loss of $10 million per year for UCLA and Cal. And now you leave, UCLA leaves with them. You're at $300 million a year. I don't know what else. You're at $30 million a year for 5 years. Like,
Yeah.
you're in real trouble here.
Yeah, I mean, that's just not that doesn't give you a lot of options, and that's why I say, like, there's a lot of conversation in the different fan bases and the people who are admirers of the sport about, like, whether winning matters or not, or whether this is an on the field issue. And I'm here to tell you that winning always matters. Winning, dude, again, it comes down to why you play the game, right? You play the game to win the game. You don't play just to participate. And I think that winning is the only reason that Alabama is Alabama. Do you think anybody would care about Alabama if it wasn't Nick Saban and a gazillion national championships? No. Who the hell? It's Alabama.
No.
Who the hell cares, right? Like, the winning portion is what's made the SEC the SEC. The lack of winning portion is what's made the Pac-12 the Pac-12. The winning portion is what's made Utah the last few years. So that's what I mean. I completely agree with what Witt said there, and I think that the Pac-12 doesn't prioritize winning in every category within football, like on the field, in the pocketbook, in recruiting, on TV. Like, winning is what matters, and it's such a novel concept, but I feel like sometimes these leagues just lose sight of that. It's like, again, this whole conversation that we've been having about, like, streaming and TV deals and, like, whether we're talking jazz or college football or whatever, you can't lose sight of what feeds you, which is winning football games and having your fans be in that game with you, watching that game, watching the moments. You have to have that, and they don't have that, and that's why they're struggling.
No, and I think that the real question here is when you look at the Pac-12 and you cash-strapped the California education system is.
Yeah.
I just don't see a path to survival here. Because if Cal is in this much trouble, the other thing that was truly amazing yesterday was I just think that most people in the Pac-12 have no idea how business is done in the Pac-12. Like, I look at some of the comments by the Board of Regents. So the University of California Board of Regents, basically the governors who control the University of California education system. So UCLA, UC Berkeley, specifically in the Pac-12. The Board of Regents was asking, well, why can't Cal just go join the Big Ten? Well, let's just have Cal go join the Big Ten and everything will be fine. It doesn't work that way.
Whoever came up with that shit need to be fired.
It just doesn't work that way, man. Like, they have no idea how major college football is administered.
Yeah.
And that's your lifeblood.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Football athletically, and I think most people who watch this show probably know this, in college, football is what pays the bills. Basketball does not pay the bills. Basketball is a nice supplement, right? Football pays the bills. Football makes it possible to have track and rowing and cross country and soccer
and badminton.
But football also makes it possible to have a full slate of female sports. Women's sports is largely dependent on the revenue generated from men's sports. And I am blown away. And I know that California's got incredible dysfunction. I get that. As a state, as a governance, I totally understand it. I am amazed that the people who run the UC system have no idea how major college football is operating.
How's that even possible?
I don't know. How is that real? That you have no idea that you can't just say, okay, well, we're in the Big Ten now. All right, where's my $100 million? Like, are you serious? That it's completely ridiculous.
Well, and I think it's very on brand for, what we've seen, frankly. I think in the Pac-12, you've seen that the prioritizing TV and distribution and thus prioritizing making money hasn't been at the top of the list. And so it's no surprise that these people controlling these schools or whatever are not privy to how college football works. And this is why I say it's not just good enough. Like, we're going to have a conversation later in the show about, like, radio and where things are at and what's going on with a major station in this country. it's not good enough just to do business like you've always done it anymore.
That's right.
It's not good enough to
right.
just show the hell up and just think, oh, well, we're in Los Angeles or we're in Berkeley and, that's good enough. And that's what's going to make us money and people are just going to pay. No, that's not good enough anymore. That's not how the world works. And I think that what we're seeing is some, attrition, if you will. We're seeing, hey, the world is punching you in the face and you're not doing anything about it.
You know what I think we're seeing? I think we're seeing a reality check. I think we're seeing that the arrogance of the Pac-12.
Wow.
That same arrogance that kept BYU out of the Pac-12. That same arrogance that said, oh, well, we're research institutions.
I'm for real.
Why don't you guys go play in the Mountain West? All right. That arrogance is coming back to bite you right in the bag right now because
it's really despicable.
you have horribly mismanaged this.
Yes.
You, USC, are largely at fault for the demise of this conference. But the fact that the UC system has no idea how college football works is why this conference is dead on arrival.
It's incredible.
I can't even fathom it. And I think the only way that the Pac-12 can survive is twofold. If the Board of Regents at the UC system says, UCLA, you are going to stay here, which I don't know, there's some question about the legality of them doing that because there's very, very murky, ambiguous language in their contracts that say, hey, you can go make decisions. And it looks like UCLA followed the rules as little as they needed to make this a reality.
Bro, these rules were established in the early 90s.
And they basically said, yeah, hey, you can do whatever you want to do with your athletic department. You just have to keep us advised.
I'm going to do that.
You don't have to ask our permission. Just let us know what you're doing. And that's exactly what UCLA did. See, USC is a private institution. They don't have to ask anybody's permission. UCLA is part of the California education system, the UC system. They have to let people know what they're doing.
But that's just incredible. Just that rule on its own is truly incredible. Hey, UCLA, bro, you can leave the conference, but just make sure you let us know, on your way out the door, will you leave a sticky note on the computer monitor so we know that you left? That's essentially what you're saying, dude. And that to me is what's incredible. I look at some of these other conferences. That would be like the ACC being like, yeah, hey, Duke or UNC. Yeah, if you want to go to the SEC, go ahead. It's fine. It's fine. Just let us know, okay? That's the problem with the Pac-12.
And we're talking about athletics. And I think this will resonate with a lot of people. These are the same people who don't know how college athletics or college financials work. And we're asking them to educate our children. These are the people at the UC system that we put in charge of making sure our kids are set up to succeed educationally.
He's a bum.
That's who we're talking about. And we're sitting here wondering why the Pac-12 is in shambles because these morons are the ones making, life-changing decisions.
Yeah.
And they were asleep at the wheel. And UCLA just walked out the door. And for the last decade, nobody said word one about how much that rent in downtown San Francisco was. And meanwhile, here in the state of Utah, you have, without question, Utah has won more games of consequence as far as national championships and competing for a national championship. Utah's won more games of consequence in the last 10 years. BYU has blown the doors off of Utah business-wise. Yeah. BYU has not sprinted past. They're riding a rocket ship past Utah business-wise with their ESPN deal, their financial viability, their Nike deal. You have a company in Under Armour that has multiple deals across multiple schools in the Pac-12, and they're damn near bankrupt at Under Armour. Meanwhile, you've got little old independent, you're not good enough to be in our conference, BYU.
Little brother.
With one of the best uniform packages in all of college athletics,
I'm for real.
Mind you, being on national TV, bringing 1 million viewers to the TV every single game they play on all of the ESPN networks.
Catch me outside. How about that?
By the way, they're playing a massive schedule. I would remind you, strength of schedule came out. BYU is what, 13th?
Yep.
In strength of schedule, Utah's 107th.
Not good.
BYU is running circles around the Pac-12. And I don't think I need to remind most people just how well BYU did against the Pac-12 last year.
Yeah.
This isn't even a comparison. You can sit here and you can talk about how, oh, well, we've won the rivalry game. What does that mean? So go ahead and tell me again. And the reason I'm so fired up about this is all of the Utah hacks that came out on Twitter the other night were like, you're lying, you're making it up. And then the UC Board of Regents, 24, 32 hours after I tweeted that, hey, sources are telling me that it's, $30 million per school per year for the remaining teams in the PAC. Oh, you're making that up. You don't have sources. And then the UC Board of Regents reads those same numbers in an open session. And you're telling me, hey, well, you're being a BYU homer. You're clickbait. Hey, call it what it is. It's $30 million. Who's going to make more money next year on their TV deal? BYU or Utah? Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know that Utah's going to get any money in a TV deal. If it's $30 million a year, which is a nice little $6 million raise comparatively speaking to where you are now, here's the other thing you got to remember. I was talking to somebody that knows San Diego State's situation pretty well yesterday, and they were saying that San Diego State doesn't view the Pac-12 as a big jump forward, and that San Diego State has not accepted an invitation, which I am told is on the table right now, waiting for San Diego State's signature. San Diego State hasn't accepted that invitation.
No.
Now, they're only making, I think they make about between 7 and 10 million per season on their TV deal. And people are like, well, why wouldn't they want to jump up by 3.5 times? Well, here's the problem. You're getting a brand new football facility. San Diego State athletics is on an upward trajectory. What happens if you join the Pac-10 at that point and they collapse? Then what? And by the way, San Diego State, I think, knows it has options because they're in Southern California. And if we learned anything from the UC Board of Regents, if we learned anything, we know that the Southern California TV market is valued by the networks. Mm-hmm. San Diego State, actually, for the first time probably ever, has leverage. Beautiful facilities, well-respected, destination recruiting market. And now I think there's a real good chance that in the next round of expansion, whether that be Big 12, whatever, I think San Diego State's gonna be a gem. They're going to be somebody that these conferences are after, Jake. And I think that's why nobody is jumping to get into the big or the Pac-12, Pac-10, whatever you want to call it now.
Yeah. I mean, I think the issue is, like, obviously there's just not a value proposition. That's the thing. Like, I think, and furthermore, I'd also say, like, the San Diego State thing, like, it's not just that there's not value for them in the PAC. It's that there's not a plan to move forward to get value.
Dude,
like
$30 million a year.
It's embarrassing. It's
school.
Dude, it's absolutely embarrassing. And then you
Jeez.
combine that with, like, for those of you who listen to the show regularly, hey, like, the way USC got out of the Pac-12, go back and listen to it. But essentially, they went behind the Pac-12's back and prevented expansion so they could leave. When San Diego State's looking at the conference, they know these stories. They know you're not making money. There's not a plan to move forward. Your schools are escaping behind your back. Like, it all just points to a poorly run, mismanaged, mishandled. Like, I guess the word that comes to mind is incompetent management of this conference. And that's the problem. Again, look around at the other P5s. Like, the other P5s are fine. Like, I know everyone's saying, oh, well, the Big 12 is 2 teams away from being the PAC. Okay, cool. Well, they still got those 2 teams, and they're still surviving, and they're still in fine shape.
But by the way, the Pac-12's insolvent. I mean, all of this stuff that we're talking about.
Yeah.
The Pac-12's broke. Like, it's amazing to me, like, hearing you say that, and I say to myself, the Pac-12 is broke.
What reason? Try to come up with one reason why someone would want to join the Pac-12 right here today.
And look at San Diego State. That's a, and I could be wrong, but I'm fairly, San Diego State is a Cal State University. I mean, if you're San Diego State, you're looking at UCLA and you're like, hey, dude, like, why would San Diego State step into this quagmire?
You wouldn't.
Why would you want to step into a situation where you already know, by the way, if you join the PAC now, like, let's say you're the school in Southern California that replaces USC and UCLA. Do you really think you're getting a full share of $30 million?
No.
You're not. You're not. So, yeah, I would agree if they're making, and I was told they're getting $9 million a year in TV money.
Mm-hmm.
If you're getting $9 million a year in TV money, are you really going to move to the Pac-12, Pac-10, Pac whatever's left for $15 million?
No.
Like, how much do you think San Diego State gets? Because if Oregon stays, right, UCLA and USC are out. Let's say San Diego State and one other university enters, and Oregon and Washington stay. Do you really think that Oregon's going to give San Diego State a full share?
No.
Are you out of your mind? That's not going to happen.
No, that's not happening.
There's no way that happens. No. I look at this situation, and I actually think that San Diego State's doing the right thing. I actually think the Big 12 is doing the right thing by not doing anything at all. Because
Excellent strategy, sir.
the Big 12 doesn't have to act.
Yes.
The Big 12, in all likelihood, from what I'm told, the same guy who told me, hey, it's $30 million a year in the Pac-12 is telling me it's like $50 to $55 million right now today. If the Big 12 doesn't do anything, they're going to get about $55 million a year per school. That their TV deal, at a minimum in their new contract, which is going to be negotiated in a year, would be at a minimum $500 million if they were negotiating it today.
I'm pumped.
And most people think a year from now, that will be up at least $100 million.
Well, yeah, I mean, but think about it. Where's the conference going? And this is what I mean. If you're San Diego State, you would never join the Pac-10, I guess, if we want to call it that, or whatever the hell it is. Like, you wouldn't do that. You would call the Big 12 and be like, hey, what can we get done here? We're looking for a spot, and we're not going to the Pac, and we're not quality enough to be in the SEC or the Big 10. So what's up? What can we get done? And yeah, because your TV deal is worth, let's just say 70 a year for each school. Yeah, sure. We'll take 40 a year. Yeah, no problem. No problem at all. We'll take 30 a year because we know we can grow into that full share. And it makes sense because there's a path forward. That's what I'm talking about with the
Yes.
path. You don't have a path forward. It's not like, again, we said this on the show yesterday. It's not the problem isn't just the problem itself for the PAC. The problem is that you have this issue and there's no plan to move forward. You don't have a stockpile of money you're sitting on, and your premier brands are talking about leaving. Nobody is going to step into that situation. It doesn't make any sense.
And certainly not another, UC school. I mean, you're not going to do that. There's just no way. There's just no way that you would do that, knowing the inner workings.
And that's why I say, like, think about it. If this was the SEC, not that this will ever happen to the SEC, but let's just say it did, you have a way out because you win football games, and a lot of them. It's Alabama, it's Georgia, it's LSU, it's Arkansas, right? Like, you have these schools that are in the SEC that play big-time football regularly. So that's why the SEC is never going to be in this situation. That's why SC went to the Big Ten. They want to play bigger games of consequences more often so they can get more TV money. That's the issue. And so that's why I say, let's stop criticizing BYU for going to the Big 12 and saying, oh, well, you're never going to make it in the Big 12. Well, it doesn't really matter. They're going to get paid now, right? So if I'm Utah, I'm saying, okay, I have to move. I have to get going here, because if I don't, I'm going to wind up in a situation that I don't want to be in. And I'm not saying that's the Mountain West, certainly, but what I am saying is you're just happy to sit here and whatever is going to be left of the wreckage that was the Pac-12. That's not good for your school.
I just don't know how. I don't know how you fix this. There's no clear and obvious way to remedy the money problem.
Yeah.
There's no clear and obvious addition that fixes this. And listen, I know that Bob Thompson, the former president of Fox Sports, came on a couple of weeks ago and told us, yeah, that the Pac-12 can be saved without UCLA.
I doubt that.
I don't know how you do that. I think the only way that you can save this conference is to keep UCLA and leverage San Diego State to join the conference. That gives you Southern California. But when USC and UCLA leave, which I think is going to happen, the PAC will not have representation below Berkeley.
And what makes you think that they'd be able to do that based on their prior behavior?
I
Right?
don't think anything.
Like, I think we have to keep
I really
pointing that
don't.
out. How can we have confidence in a a board of regents or a management team, if you will? How do you have confidence in that team when they are the exact same people who put you here? That's the issue. That's what I can't get away from with this conversation.
And again, like I
It's
don't mean to
crazy.
be redundant with this, putting this picture up here.
Yeah.
This LA Times piece, look at this, what's on the screen right now. Look at this. The Bruin athletic department was saddled with a record $102.8 million deficit.
Come on, man.
A deficit. They're in the hole. $102.8 million. That's UCLA.
But that's okay because they're getting $70 million a year in TV money, right?
Ugh.
Oh no, that's right. That's right. You're not. You're not.
And that is, again, the only reason that this is not a death knell for the conference is because UCLA was able to negotiate an out-of-court settlement with Under Armour, who pulled out of their massive deal with UCLA.
Yeah.
Like, it's
brutal.
cowabunga. All right, let's get your comments in here. I appreciate you guys listening to me rail about this. And listen, I think most of you who watch this show know this, that, we are not, I'm not going to say we. I am not affiliated to the state in any way, shape, or form. I wasn't born here in Utah. We choose to live here, and we have for the last decade. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a Notre Dame fan. Trust me, I understand the pain of independence. But Utah fans are coming to I think, a very difficult realization. And that is that the Pac-12 is not what you hoped it would be. And I think you have to realize now that BYU has passed you by. And I understand why you want to say that, your sources are bullshit and okay, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Because $30 million a year makes you look foolish. It makes you look like the minor leagues.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that, Bill Riley on ESPN 700, I guess a couple of weeks ago, somebody tweeted at me that he said it would be $50 million a year.
Well,
There's not a conversation right now alive, or a mathematical equation, quadratic or whatever,
Or
algebra,
geometric.
or, you can use whatever map you want to find, but
yeah.
you're going to find nothing that says you're worth $50 million a year.
Do you know what that's like these days?
You're just not. And again, I will simply restate what I said yesterday on the show. It's on YouTube. It lives forever. I was told by a TV source very close to this that they are going to get $30 million a year for 5 years per school.
So get your facts straight.
Per school, period. That's the max. That's the ceiling.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that is just really, really unfortunate. Really unfortunate. I mean, it is.
Yeah, I
And by the way, real quick,
Yeah.
that's average annual value.
yeah.
That doesn't mean that the 10 remaining schools each get 30 million.
Yeah.
That's not what that means. That's average annual value. And I think this is why I say, if you're Utah and if you're a Ute fan, there's a hard stop coming. Kyle Whittingham didn't say what he said. Kyle Whittingham didn't say, hey, we need to go out and win games. This is Kyle Whittingham. He didn't go out and say, hey, we need to go and beat Florida and make a statement. When does Kyle Whittingham ever say stuff like that?
Never.
Read this statement from Kyle Whittingham. And this is a guy, by the way, who just is coming off of a Rose Bowl appearance in a Pac-12 championship.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking about how it's important for the Pac-12 to make noise on a national scene whenever we get the opportunity.
Oh, you mean like week 1?
He's got to go, and I know we've talked about it on this show. They need to go to Florida and make a statement. Because if they go to Florida and lose, God forbid they go to Florida, the Utes, and get their doors blown off, nobody's going to remember the Rose Bowl. Nobody. And I think if you go to Florida and you win, and if the Utes are what I think they are, which is a one-loss team, and man, I hope that loss isn't to USC.
Mm-hmm.
If they're a one-loss team and they're a conference champion again,
Yeah.
and they go to the college football playoff, because at one loss and a champion of the Pac-12, you can do that. We're having a different conversation.
Yeah.
The home of the Utes needs to be the Big 12. And I think there's a possibility that happens. We're sitting where, by the way, has anybody noticed the Big Ten has not announced their TV deal yet? There's a lot of thought that could happen today. We'll see if that happens. I don't know. Here we are at 9 a.m. Eastern. We'll see what happens.
Y'all feel me?
8 a.m. in Chicago. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
But if they announce that and those schools are getting an average annual value of $100 million a year, the Big 12 has to act.
Yep.
The Big 12 has to act. They have to go and put because this thing, and I'm not trying to be redundant. I just want you to understand the gravity of that Regents meeting yesterday. The grim picture that was painted for the Pac-12 yesterday. It was ugly. It was as bad, I think, as it could have been.
Too bad.
When you're telling us you're broke and you're telling us that you don't know how college football works. That is a shocking admission.
Yeah, it's just embarrassing. I think it lays the foundation for your conference not to exist anymore.
It is
That's what it does.
And I wish I had that now, but I want to read you. I want to read you the Stuart Mandel tweet, and I'll find it. But it's amazing to me. And if you don't follow Stuart Mandel, I mean, he is the editor-in-chief at The Athletic for college football.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't follow him, I think you're missing out. But he talks about, how they don't know. And that the UC president's office yesterday, you would think, Stuart Mandel said, the UC president's office would have access to some inside info. But no, they're citing, quote, media reports for the Pac-12. That you own UCLA and you don't know the financials of the Pac-12.
And as you can see, there's not much hope for you left.
How? Like, the incompetence.
Yeah.
And these are the people we're trusting to educate our children.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about that, man.
Yeah, it's not good, dude.
When we talk about the future, and listen to this. This is the tweet I want to read. One of the Regents seems to be under the impression Cal can just decide whether or not it wants to be in the Big Ten too. Another just proposed they should model out various scenarios for Cal, quote, including one where it moves to Division III.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Are you serious? Do you have no idea? And I know they're just those wacky hippie lettuce smoking fanatics in California.
If you guys ever want to kick it, we'll flow.
But this is your job to know this.
Yeah.
I am just terrified.
But this is my point.
Our future.
This is my point. The Pac-12 has always been run by old rich white dude who doesn't seem to care. Doesn't care
about
need
football.
To care, doesn't need to know.
we could go to the football game on Saturday, I guess.
Like,
what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Dax Johnson, good morning to you.
Johnson.
Morning, boys. The Pac-12 is dead, and the Big 12 needs to take advantage. Also, what's up with all the haters towards you guys on Twitter? I think, and look, this is just my opinion. I don't know. I think it goes back to when we were, when I was on K-Fan. By the way, these are all the same relationships. Like, when you ask me who I talk to, I've been talking to the same people, and they've all just kept moving up. Now, I've been regressing. I mean, hell, I'm sitting here next to Jake in his basement.
Yeah, I mean, in my hair. I mean, obviously.
I thought that was the best one on Twitter the other day. Oh, you just do this show in your son's basement.
Like, come on, guy.
I think this goes back to, and the hilarious part is, like, this guy on Twitter the other night's like, yeah, we're still waiting for BYU and Texas to form a super conference, which was never what I said. What I said was, hey, Texas and USC both would like out of their situation, and they would like to form a super conference.
Mm-hmm.
And they have talked about forming a super conference, one that would include BYU. A large group of schools getting together to make a bunch of money while playing football.
Yeah.
Meantime, Texas left the Big 12, and USC now has left the Pac-10.
Yeah.
So you can tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about, but if you just follow the timeline, I have failed forward apparently relationally because I just happen to know people in the very good positions. I've worked in pro sports for 30 years, man. I know, I'm telling you right now, the hate on Twitter is good. The people saying that we don't know what we're talking about, it's almost as though it's formulaic.
Well, and it's funny.
Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't have sources. And like with the Donovan Mitchell trade.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys don't know what you're talking about. Stop lying.
Yeah.
What
Dude
did-
was saying, hey, he's getting text messages. You guys don't know what you're talking about. How'd that work out for you? How did that work out for you? How did it work out for you last year when we told you Rudy Gobert was going to get traded? It's consistent.
Yeah.
And that's why I say again, not to push forward too far, but we're going to have a conversation about radio later in the show, and you want to be here for that. That's what I'll say. Be here for that.
By the way, I thought it was interesting, and we're going to talk about the Jazz in a minute. Yesterday, Stephen A. Smith said that he's talked to the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
And the Knicks are frustrated because Danny Ainge is asking for 6 picks.
Well, but wait, what did you say? Didn't you say?
That Danny Ainge has frustrated the Knicks because he's asking for 6 picks is what we've talked about for weeks on this show.
Interesting.
Hey, man, you know, it is what it is.
Don't lie to me.
Cody Strickland, good morning to you. Well, you guys have burgers. So should I bring my own turkey burgers? No, we're going to have wings, and we're going to have pizza. Jesse Harsh says, morning, boys. Are Oregon and USC rated properly in the AP? In my opinion, they're overrated. I think USC is vastly underrated.
Yeah, but they got to earn their ranking.
They do, but if you pay attention to what USC's added, not just Lincoln Riley, they're incredibly talented.
Yeah, I mean,
They're 2.5 deep.
Yeah.
I don't know that they're 3-4 deep right now, but they're as talented as they've been right now today in a decade under Lincoln for what, 5 months, 6 months?
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think that SC again, and we've always disagreed on this, but I think SC has lived on this notion that they're SC and they're in Southern California, and that's why everyone thinks they're good. And they've been terrible for the last 10 years. And so now Lincoln's come to the program and done everything you were just talking about. And so there's optimism around the program, as there should be, rightfully so. I think they're going to be good, no doubt about it. But that doesn't mean that in the preseason you're going to get a gift of a ranking. That's not how it works. You need to go out, you need to win football games, and you need to beat Utah this year if you're SC.
I think Utah's underrated at 7, and I think BYU's vastly underrated at 25.
Yeah.
But, BYU, I'm a little concerned about Gunnar Romney. Gunnar Romney has not practiced at all, not one time. And I'm trying to find out what's going on with Gunnar Romney. He's got to be injured. And I understand, like, they did their inside Cougar training camp the other day, and Kalani Sitake talked about, hey, we're resting people, we're being very careful.
Mm-hmm.
Gunnar Romney hasn't taken a rep in practice yet.
But he's also a veteran.
He hasn't taken a rep in you're not concerned that he's hurt?
I mean, yeah, he's probably hurt. Probably. But I'm not going to sit here and say that somehow the guy is, like him not practicing doesn't mean that he can't come out week 1 or whenever that first week he plays will be and execute. I mean, I just think that that's part of life as a football player. When you're hurt, your job is to make sure that you stay in the know as far as the playbook's concerned, and you keep yourself sharp.
Yeah,
that's your job.
I also think as a wide receiver, there's something with the ball hitting you in the hands, and there's something in catching a football from your quarterback, knowing how that ball is going to spin, knowing how that ball is going to feel. How much time is Gunnar Romney in that group of quarterbacks, Jaron Hall and Conover looks unbelievable.
Yep.
But how much time has Gunnar Romney been able to spend with Jaron Hall? That's my biggest concern. They need those wide receivers to be explosive and good. And I don't know what it is, and I hope I'm wrong. I sincerely, I hope I'm wrong because I love Gunnar Romney.
Yeah.
He has got to be injured. You don't not play a guy in practice. You do not. Half reps, okay. You're just trying to keep his legs fresh, okay.
Yeah, he's probably hurt. You're not wrong about that. But I'm not going to sit here and stress about dude's ability to get the job done when he does come back. I think that like if he starts to falter, if he starts to wane, then yeah, let's be concerned. Like I don't disagree with what you're saying. It's ideal. In a perfect world, you would be catching those passes. You would be practicing. Like, obviously, it always helps to get those reps in, but I think it would be different if this was a guy who's, like, first year on the team and he was some big recruit who just couldn't practice and didn't have the chemistry already, But I think he's got that chemistry. I think there's enough there where he can get by, is, I guess, my point.
Yeah. I just, more to the point, I'm more concerned that they have significant injuries early in the season. That's what I would say. All right, Kurt Myers, good morning to you. He says, I'm out taking my morning walk to get cut. Let's go. Neville 93 says, good morning, guys. The Pac-12 is dead. I don't see how they recover. New York Jets fan says Pac-12 is dead like the Lakers after LeBron signed that massive deal yesterday. And we're going to talk about that. I actually think that deal gives them flexibility. So we'll see about that. Richard McDonald says, I'm excited to hear what happens. The Pac is garbage.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you cower in fear for a year instead of living life over the flu. Yeah? Well, they didn't want to play games. I don't disagree with that. Jesse Harsh says, morning, boys. Read that one. Cody Strickland, what's up? Kurt Myers says, I watched a report yesterday that concluded the ESPN is trying to end the Big 12 and is forcing the ACC, SEC, and the Pac to gobble up teams. I haven't heard that not one time. I have not heard that from a single person.
Yeah.
At all. Cody Strickland says, wants to know if we'll have burgers. I don't know if our comments are repeating. I'm sexy because my Sexy Lopez says. That could be. That could absolutely be. M. Alvarez says, the only one looking twice is Mrs. Monty, but I'm a dude. What do I know? Okay.
Donnie, please.
I'm a good-looking dude. Kenai Johnson says, top of the morning, fellas, fits the Pac-12 perfectly. Yeah. It is amazing to me that they don't know, that the UC Board of Regents clearly does not understand how college football works.
Nope.
I'm shocked by it. Shocked. JC Destroys Ankle says, morning, fellers. What's up? Why is the U acting so comfortable with the Pac-12? Pac-12, Pac-10? With NIL becoming a thing, how can they stay competitive in this conference? But this is what I say about Utah all the time. And this has been my question about Utah for weeks.
Yeah.
I've brought this up for a specific reason. There's no way to get NIL deals done at Utah. It is incredibly difficult. Because if you go to the school, they tell you, well, we can't get involved. Good luck trying to get the players. Like, you DM them, nothing. Nada. And I know a few people. I have probably 12 numbers on the team. And you just don't, there's just no traction. The crazy part is a lot of the kids at Utah don't know how NIL works and are concerned that they will get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Are you serious? How is that possible? That Utah is not educating their football players on how NIL works. I have a hard time believing that.
Mm-hmm.
I have too much faith in what Kyle Whittingham and Mark Harlan are doing up there.
Well,
I don't understand the disconnect with NIL at Utah. That's one. Two, they just don't have the money that every other school has.
Yeah.
It's and this is why I say when we talk about this is why I say when we talk about Utah versus BYU is in a superior position to Utah right now. That could change very quickly if Utah joins the Big 12. If you're exponentially better off financially, okay, cool, I get that.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those situations where until it happens, you just don't know.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
I completely agree. 100%.
I don't know. Let's keep rolling. Ryan Thompson says, Monty, you were spot on. The report said UCLA represented 1/3 of USC's 30% value. That is a 40% total loss total, leaving $300 million for the remaining 10 teams.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate that. Sexy Lopez says, zombie company, higher interest rates don't help right now. What do you mean? Okay. Ryan Thompson says PAC is losing $150 million with USC and $50 million with UCLA. Before the defections, the PAC would get $500 million. So there is that $300 million I mentioned again. Yeah, it's remarkable. Remarkable. Ryan Thomas says, Bob Thompson said motivating matchups create value. Oregon, Washington, Utah, and ASU all can create compelling matchups against Baylor, Okie, Cincinnati, BYU, etc. I don't know. There's a lot of debate about Washington's value. Washington brings you Seattle.
Washington's living on hype right now. They're not a good team, and that needs to change.
Well, and I think there is some of the value. Right now, today, your performance on the field is critical to your value. I think it's a part of your value. Obviously, and I just go back to Syracuse. Syracuse is not an attractive athletic program for most conferences. Oh, but they are in the state of New York, and they deliver you a massive amount of human beings.
What's the difference, though? The key difference between Syracuse and Washington, in their respective conferences, is nobody's leaning on Syracuse in the ACC to make money. Nobody. It's nice to have them, but they don't need them, right? It's nice that you have that addition of the New York portion, but it's not like if somehow Syracuse closed its doors tomorrow, the ACC would close its conference.
Sure.
Washington, on the other hand, is important to the Pac-12 or Pac-10 success. Like, they are a premier brand. They were a premier brand until their team was not good anymore. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's different in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll see. I think it's going to be very interesting to see who goes where and who's got real value. Because I think between Utah's value on the field, I think Utah's total brand as an athletic department, their total brand as an institution, education, I mean, they just bring so much to the table as a total package at Utah. I think they have value. They have tremendous value, especially when you consider the reach that the Big 12 would be looking for, which is why I think San Diego State is such an incredible asset. And then you look at Utah joining BYU. I mean, it gives you a really big game every single year in multiple sports. Like, there's a lot to it. Mm-hmm. There is a lot to it. So I would be high. I would be very high on Utah's value. Richard McDonald says it's simple. When you put politics over everything, including your product and student athletes, you're bound to fail. I agree with that. JC Destroys Ankle says, welcome to the Monty Show, where Jake is giving his Netflix password to Greg Hawkins.
I'm not sure,
Okay. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, bro.
Steve Peterson says, good morning, Steve, with all due respect.
Yes.
The non-California schools have allowed the California schools' arrogance to destroy the Pac-12. That's a really good point.
Yep.
That's a really good point.
Yep.
That is a really good point. James Nelson, good morning to you. Utah can't exactly join the Big 12 without an invite. No, they can't. But I think there's no doubt that invite is either coming or has come already.
Yeah.
It's simply a matter of process. And I have no doubt that the Big 12 would find Utah an attractive member and would add them if they thought they could add them today. I think the Big 12 is doing the exact right thing by waiting and being patient, because the Pac-12 is eating itself. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're just watching it burn down. This Board of Regents thing yesterday, I mean, it just put all of their dirty financial laundry out there. I mean, you have multiple institutions in that conference that are in trouble financially. And that's just in the UC system. I mean, we now know that Cal and UCLA are in financial straits. Like, they are in real
It's not
trouble.
The best situation, and we all know that.
And, I mean, it is not. I think it's extreme. Somebody asked me yesterday if I thought that Cal Berkeley sports would go away. That's not going away. I mean, but could you see Olympic sports go away at Berkeley? I think you could.
Concessions, like concessions of different sports.
Yes, I think you could. I think that's a real thing because they're in a hole and there is no way to dig your way out of that hole.
Final.
You're just not making any money.
Yeah.
You're not making any money. Steve Peterson says, I want Utah to survive. I want them out of that conference. They need to make a move and not have the same arrogance of the Cal schools. Well,
Yep.
I mean, man, the 180 in situations is just incredible.
Yeah, but this is what happens. That arrogance piece that he's talking about is so spot on. I mean, you can't be that far off. You can't, like, that's why I was so surprised. Like, what was it, 2 weeks ago at Pac-12 Media Day? Like, the arrogance was alive and well. And it's so funny to see you chose to have the Stanford AD sit next to you. Why? What has Stanford ever done for you? Like, how about UCLA? How about Utah? How about Oregon? You know, the schools that, like, pay your bills. How about those guys?
Yeah.
That was incredible.
Yep, Richard McDonald says, Monty, politics killed the PAC. I know you're left-leaning and probably don't want to admit that, but it's literally in PAC commercials. Well, whether you're left or right, this is a money thing. I don't necessarily believe that politics are why, you know, the Pac-12 is dying. I don't believe that at all. I mean, I think really bad business decisions.
Yeah.
Having lawyers make decisions about officiating on the football field is ridiculous. Arrogance and just a reluctance to make a TV deal.
Yeah.
Just really stupid financial decisions, overspending, under-earning, overspending.
Not respecting your profit and loss sheet. It's very simple.
The other thing, when you talk about politics, the other thing I find so interesting is every conference is a melting pot. I mean, if you look at the Big Ten, you know, from Rutgers all the way across the country to Los Angeles. I mean, what does New Jersey and California have in common? You look at what you're getting in the Big Ten, there's such a dichotomy of a corn farmer and a corn farmer and a lawyer from USC are completely different humans.
Yeah.
But they all can come together and make that work because they're going to win games.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to make money. The reason that a school like USC and UCLA, who are neighbors, the reason that they're leaving together is because they understand their relationship. They understand their value, which clearly the conference did not.
Yeah.
So the difference between Seattle, Berkeley, and Los Angeles is far more than their political left-leaning.
Mm-hmm.
It's far more than that. It's a lack of communication. It is a lack of understanding. It is a lack of the ability to operate inside of a structure. All of that has fallen apart in the Pac-12 because you allowed Larry Scott to manage this thing straight into the ground from a penthouse.
Yeah.
From a private jet with a 3-piece custom-made suit on. You allowed that to happen with no accountability. That's what is so shocking to me.
Yeah.
And you allowed President Yao at USC to just roll over you. And I think I got her name wrong, but you allowed USC to absolutely torpedo the conference. Carol Folt, thank you. President Folt at USC, you allowed her to completely torpedo your existence. A year ago, and I'm sure most people know this story, a year ago, a small group of presidents in the Pac-12 got together to talk about expansion. And USC President Carol Folt said, I am not interested. We are not doing this. And shut it down. And the Pac-12 never went back to it. And less than a year, 11 months later, Carol Folt and USC announced they were leaving the conference to go to the Big Ten.
Cold-blooded, clean, methodical, and thorough.
She flipping owned you, bro.
Yeah.
Like, and you allowed that to happen.
Straight assassin mode, man.
So not only have they sucked for a decade, USC, not only have they been scandal-ridden, not only have they had multiple scandals in basketball, one of the biggest scandals in the history of college football, You went to them and you said, hey, would you be okay? Would you mind if we expanded? No, I don't want to expand. Okay, sorry. And you cowered away in your corner, or excuse me, in your penthouse, Larry Scott.
Right.
And you allowed UCLA and USC to dictate your fortune.
Y'all feel me?
And now you want to hire a new commissioner, and now you want to try and sell us that $30 million a year is just fine and dandy. Well, there's no more fine and dandy after that Regent meeting yesterday.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist. That does not exist. What's up, Viking? Russell Anderson, the Desert Viking, says the Pac-10 is like the high school chick that looked down her nose at everyone that ended up in jail with a mustache mugshot. Wow. Okay, I can't say I hate that. I can't say I hate that. Jordan Huey, good morning, says Michigan, Rutgers, Northwestern, all very left schools politically is not the issue. Business
Yeah,
is.
it has like, and not to
Business
hate on
is
that
the
guy
issue.
who left that political comment, but it doesn't have to do with politics. It has to do with business, man.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think it is
Money management and opportunity. It's either going to make you or it's going to break you. Like, that's it.
I can't believe the Pac-12 is in this position. I can't believe it. I don't know. Richard McDonald says, thanks, Tanner. I'm not a diehard Republican or anything. I'm pretty middle of the road. What did Tanner say?
Yeah.
Tanner said, I lean to the left, Richard McDonald, but I agree with you. Leaning to the left too much is definitely one of the reasons why the Pac days could be numbered.
Tricky T.
I don't know. And I'm
What does
happy
that
to have
even
this
mean?
discussion. Well, what it means is that, one, you're a California conference. I mean, yes, you have Utah. Yes, you have the Arizona schools, Washington, Oregon. Totally understand that. But this is USC, UCLA, Cal, Stanford. Like, the heart of this conference lives in California. The management of this conference is in California. I think there is a stigma about that. I don't believe that, if you look at, I don't know, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California.
Mm-hmm.
Gavin Newsom absolutely played a role in whether they chose to play or not. But are you telling me that Washington State firing Nick Rolovich over a state law played a role in the collapse of the Pac-12? No. Nick Rolovich is a cock.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
That's a nickname he gave him.
he's an arrogant jerk.
Yeah.
Like, you're putting, at the time that Nick Rolovich was refusing to wear a mask or get vaccinated is really what it came down to, because Rolovich wore a mask. But Nick Rolovich refused to get vaccinated, and there was a law in the state of Washington that mandated all public employees, all employees of the state get vaccinated.
Oh, and by the way, he wasn't paid well or anything, was he? Oh, that's right. You were the number one paid public employee in the state. That's
and by the
right.
way, he's now suing Washington State and the state of Washington, the university, the state of Washington. But you knew the rule. You knew the rule.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with why the Pac-12 is collapsing. They not playing during the period of time YouTube doesn't allow us to talk about is not the reason that you're collapsing. The reason that you're collapsing is you're flipping stupid. You're terrible at the business of football.
Yeah.
It's not the period of time when the needle in the arm and stuff.
Right.
That has nothing to do with why they're collapsing. Nothing. Not a thing. They're collapsing because they don't have a TV deal.
Facts.
They're collapsing because USC and UCLA abandoned them for the Big Ten to make $100 million a year at some point in the future.
Which is interesting because they've done it for different reasons, as we've laid out. USC did it for opportunity. UCLA did it because they had to do it.
I don't disagree that politically California is a freaking disaster.
Yeah. There
There is no doubt about that. I actually, and I don't know, I think I've said this on the show before, I know Gavin Newsom pretty well. When I was at KGO, he was on my show regularly. We talked on a pretty regular basis. Gavin Newsom is a liberal. There's no doubt about that. He could be the face of the liberal movement. He's not the reason the Pac-12 is collapsing.
Yeah.
We could sit here and talk about governance and all this other crap. Politics have no role. Incompetence is the reason. again, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about this UC system Board of Regents meeting yesterday.
Yeah.
Yet members of the Board of Regents unaware that you can't just up and join any conference you want. You had a regent in the University of California system. One of the people charged with running the system said, well, why doesn't Cal Berkeley just go to Division III? What?
What is that, dude?
Do you know what that would do to them financially? Even as crippled as UC is now. Do you know how little money you would make? That's why the Pac-12 is failing.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the ballot box and everything to do with incompetent management. That's 100% what this is about. And we could sit here and go round and round about politics and taxes and overregulation and business climates. Why does Oregon want out? Are you telling me that Oregon's not left-leaning?
Yeah.
Are you telling me that USC is not left-leaning? It's not politics.
Yeah.
It is not
It's bad
politics.
business, bro.
It is. The Big Mugamba says, grew up in California, worked in LA. It's a crazy place. Left as fast as I could. Everyone thinks they are the best and what they do because they are in LA, but they have no clue. Well, listen, man, I lived in LA for over a decade. I love Los Angeles. I love Southern California.
Yeah.
I love the beach. Everybody's got their own perceptions. You're not wrong. My perception's just different. That's all. Court McMullen says, Gavin Newsom has run California into the ground. He barely escaped a recall election. Well, no, he didn't barely escape. He easily overcame. Come on.
See, but this is what I mean. See, this is what happens. See, this is what we allow ourselves to get into.
Yeah.
As a society, we're talking college football, and we're talking about incompetent business practices that have put you in a terrible position. This has nothing to do with recall elections or, honestly, Gavin Newsom or the time we can't talk about. It has nothing to do with that, because if it had anything to do with that, the SEC would be in trouble. The Big Ten would be in trouble. The Big 12 would be in trouble. The ACC would be in trouble. Everybody else would be in the same boat the Pac-12 is in. But what do you notice? They're not. In fact, I would even say the Big Ten is thriving. You're talking about $100 million per school TV deals. I think they're doing okay. This has nothing to do with politics. It's everything to do with that, with business. Straight up.
I just
it's not hard. It's not difficult.
And it's funny, I actually know a ton of people. I probably know a dozen people that work at the Big 12 or at the Big 10 network. They're laughing at people in the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is the laughing stock of college sports right now.
Yes.
This UC Regents meeting yesterday left people stunned and in awe of just how incompetent that conference in the UC system is. It's
well, and so it begs the question: what is Utah going to do? What is the plan of action? There's
get to the Big 12,
dude.
You got to get to the Big 12. I don't see any way. Steve Peterson says, Monty, the Deseret News is now also reporting about the financial state of the Pac-12, and it's exactly what you reported, but you know nothing.
Yeah, we don't know anything on this show, and none of the people who write jazz content in this town or write content on college football listen to the show. No, not at all, not at all.
And listen, I think the thing that you know about this show is your opinion is really welcome here. Honest to God, whether you agree with us or not. We the idea that you guys are here. How many? There's 286 people in this live stream right now. Our channel is exploding.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you guys. You're not wrong. You're not wrong unless you're like, oh, Donovan Mitchell plays for the Sixers. No, you're wrong. He plays for the Jazz. Okay, you're wrong about that. But your opinion on California or Gavin Newsom or politics you're not wrong about that. It's just an opinion. I appreciate the exchange of ideas. Mm-hmm. Going raw with Huck.
What the hell kind of name is that? First of all, welcome to the show.
Who the fuck are you?
First of all, going raw. Raw and uncut.
On BYU Radio.
No, not on BYU. The original Pac-12 schools, USC, UCLA, already in the Big Ten, but Stanford, California, Oregon, and Washington will be part of the Big Ten. So they essentially moved up, leaving the Big 12 behind and mediocre. Well, I mean, listen, we'll see. I mean, you could be absolutely right about that. I don't necessarily believe that's going to happen. I don't. I think it's going to be 3 more years before we see a massive wave of reconstruction in college football.
Yeah.
By the way, did anybody notice? I don't know if you guys are reading the ticker or not. Did anybody notice the governors of the college football playoff met to talk about abandoning the NCAA on Monday?
Good.
College football is going to change. I'm telling you that now. Tanner says, LOL, Steve, don't let Mont's head get too big. Too late. Ask Mrs. Monty. Sam Winder says, wrong. Okay. Kanai Johnson said, so let's say there is no invite to the Big 12 for Utah. What's the next move staying in the Pac-12?
I don't know, dude. And that's the honest answer, because I don't, there's not another course of action. There's not. Like where are you going to recoup that money? Where are you going to, what's the plan of survival? What? So we're going to go, so what's the TV deal? Allegedly like 7 years, I think, at 30 million-ish. A school, obviously, you know, like you were saying, that's an average annual value. Not every school gets that, but you figure Utah is going to get a bigger piece of the pie, of course. So if you just sit there and wait and watch your conference go to shambles, that's just bad business. If UCLA can find a way out, Utah can find a way out. There is zero question about that. And I just think that Utah is a great program. I think they're valued. I think that, bro, what is going on, man?
I don't know what's happening in my house. Nobody is home right now. Nobody is home. It's the two of us. Mrs. Monty's out getting her physical this morning. And there is loud music playing in my house right now. I don't know. Maybe you try. Alexa, stop. No, that's not. I have no idea what that is.
It is.
It is. It was the A word.
See, okay.
Dude, this
real
is
quick
freaks me
sidebar.
out.
Real
this
quick sidebar.
freaks me out.
I am never getting a fridge like your fridge. I'm not doing it. I'm not getting a fridge with a panel in it.
And it's playing Alexa, stop. Like it's dude, I have more weird stuff that happens in this house that
like what? So the music.
Noises you can't explain, like ticking noises. Like a wall was buckling in my, and now it's not. It's just weird.
Yeah.
And then stuff like that happens, like I don't explain it. Anyway, all right, let's keep going. Here's the problem for Utah. Here's what's left in the Pac-10. If you stay in the Pac-10, okay, let's call it $30 million a year. Let's call it 40. Let's call it $40 million a year. Let's be really generous. You're making $40 million a year for your TV rights. You likely won't have a full-time stream. You likely won't have full digital content. That's going to be for the next 5 years. So you're making, let me get this right, you're making $200 million in 5 years, which USC's making in 2.
You know.
Think about that. What does this do to recruiting? Well, here's the problem. Are you flying your coaches recruiting now first class, coach, private jet? Probably not, right? By the way, who's Utah's uniform sponsor? Under Armour. Does that need to change? Maybe. How's your recruiting? Probably not as good as it could have been if you were in the Big 10, if you were in the Big 12, right? But hey, we stayed in the Pac-10. This is who we are. Okay, so your access to big games is probably less, right? Your seat at the table is probably less, because I'm assuming if the Pac-10 stays together, it opens up a huge opportunity for the Big 12. And my guess is that San Diego State would wind up joining the Big 12, because San Diego State's going to get picked up. Mm-hmm. And I keep hearing the other school I keep hearing about is Boise State.
Boise State in that blue turf.
Boise State announced a massive infrastructure upgrade. They are redoing quite a bit of their facilities, not by accident.
Myron.
I think Boise State is another school that wants conference affiliation. And right now they're in the minor leagues. They'd like to play in the major leagues. Facilities, that has to change. Boise is an exploding market of humanity.
Yeah.
So TV market's growing. This cycle of expansion, Boise State's not going anywhere. Boise is going to do their deal. And I think in 5 years, when there's another massive round of expansion, I think that's when you're going to see that Boise State's going to join a significant conference.
Yeah.
Are you going to join a significant conference in 5 years? Because what's going to happen is you are going to continue to lose a ton of money. You are going to make less than half of what schools in the Big Ten are making.
Yeah.
If you stay in the Pac-10. You are going to make $100 million less than Big 12 schools are making.
I started having second thoughts.
In that same window. You're gonna make significantly less money. It's not viable.
Yeah.
Money makes the college football world go round, whether that's recruiting, whether that's caliber of uniforms. And Utah does a great job with uniforms. Great job. Helmets, combinations, jerseys.
Yeah.
Look at BYU's uniform package. Superior to what Utah's got, to what just about anybody's got. BYU's got one of the best uniform packages in all of college sports. They're a Nike school, right? So they've got beautiful blues, all different kinds of blues, all different kinds of whites, all different kinds of blue over blue, blue over white, white over blue, white over white, like all this stuff.
Yeah.
So what are they doing that you're not doing? Well, they're selling exponentially more merchandise.
And he will every single time.
Right now, if you're the Pac-10 and BYU's now in the Big 12, that becomes the Big 16, who's got a better seat at the table? Who's got more access to the college football playoff? Well, I would say BYU at that point does. It's not an option for Utah to stay in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
It's not. You've got to move on. You've got to move on. Let's see. Sam Winder says politics and business go hand in hand. They are incompetent at business because they are incompetent at running their school system and their state. Yeah, sure. Absolutely could be. Absolutely could be. You know, like I don't know. Caleb says Ayton to the Jazz, baby. Okay. Did I miss something? New York Jazz fan says, that's why we love you guys. Great show. Appreciate that. Kurt Meyer says, business is why Tesla left California and many other businesses are leaving liberal states in droves. Could be. Could be. Let's see. Cam Hepler says, I have a major itch situation.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, got some ibs happening.
Really?
Utah's Pac-12 last hope for a playoff run. Is Utah the Pac-12's last hope for a playoff run? No, I think USC and Utah this year could be on a run. Why are you laughing at me? That was ferocious.
Just so casual how you just were talking college football, and then you're over here itching, and you're like, yeah, I've got a small case of the ibs here, and by the way, USC is gonna get paid.
Every guy's been through that.
Hell yeah, they have. I just thought it was funny how smooth you were with it. You were unfazed. You were like, yeah, a little case of the ibs here. But yeah, USC's going to get paid, and it just was funny. That was funny.
Listen. Settle down. Settle down. Steve Peterson says Minnesota in the Eastern Conference.
You
Jake,
see
your
what
thoughts?
I mean? Conference realignment. Thank you.
It happens.
Thank you.
Tanner says, yes, financial factors are bigger reasons why the Pac-12 is screwed, but I also believe the politics have played a role in it. Could be.
And I don't disagree. Listen, I don't disagree with the notion that, these same people who don't know how to run a conference, don't know how to run a good school system, it all is this cesspool of death, if you will. It all runs together. Totally get it, but what I'm not really interested in is having that conversation of oh, well, liberals suck or conservatives are terrible people, or I'm just not that interested in that conversation. And I think that the Pac-10 or Pac-12 is just going in a brutal direction, and I don't know what the answer is. And it's very rare in sports for there not to be an answer. Usually, we're going to talk Jazz here in a minute, in this TV thing. There's an answer for that.
Yes.
You have an answer for why the Yankees suck right now, right? There's an answer for that. But in this situation with the Pac-12, there's no answer.
Going raw with Huck.
Can you just say Going Raw is his name?
Going Raw!
Going Raw says this.
It's Thursday Morning Raw. The Big 12 and the Pac-12 are in, the Big 12 and the Pac-12 are in bed together because both TV deals will be similar. So y'all's minds and stop rooting against the Pac-12. Nobody here is rooting. Again, okay, what's better for our show? Oh, the Pac-12 collapsing. No, actually it's not. It's not. What would be better for our show is if BYU wins the Big 12 championship and Utah wins the Pac-12 championship and they meet in a playoff game of consequence.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be better for our show if the Pac-12 was alive and well.
I'm for real.
But it's not. And I wouldn't call, if it was today, I would value the Pac-12 media rights at $300 million a year. And I would value the Big 12 media rights at $550 million a year. I wouldn't call that equal. That's at least a $22 million difference.
Yeah.
I would not call that equal.
Yeah.
And by any way, shape, or form. I would not. I just, that's just me, though. And I could be wrong. As everybody likes to point out, I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Who else before we get to Jazz? Kurt Meyer says, call Devery Davis when you get ready to leave California.
Yeah, see, there you go. See, you can refi or you can get your mortgage at school.
I would absolutely do that. Let's see. Carl Christian says, McMurphy tweets Big Ten not done expanding and targeting Stanford, Cal, Washington, and Oregon. I am not surprised by that at all. The other day I was talking to somebody who said the reason that they haven't announced their TV deal yet is they're trying to add more schools.
Yeah, and look, who would be surprised? I mean, again, if you're the Big Ten, you have power. So I wouldn't be surprised if you went in and tried to get those schools. I mean, frankly, again, while we're talking about good and bad business practice, that's good business practice out of the Big Ten. That's smart. Like you're in a situation where you can read the room and say, okay, if we can add Oregon, Washington, hell, even Utah, let's say, it's just as an example, if we can add these premier brands out of the pack, that's going to give us even more of a grip on what's left of the pack and the Big 12. Because if you're the Big 10, I know we got to get to this, but if you're the Big 10, you need to keep control of that second place as far as power is concerned. Because SEC's 1, right now Big 10's 2. You cannot, in any case, let the Big 12 inch closer to you.
By the way, there's a lot of people surmising why we have issues in the house.
Oh, God.
Giggity, good morning to you, sir. He says the dogs are rocking upstairs.
Donnie, please.
Steve Peterson says, damn it, Monty, now the A word is freaking out. Sir Brandon says ghost bots. Could be.
Ghost bots.
M. Alvarez says, thanks for turning on my Amazon devices. You're welcome.
Wait, did that actually happen? Did us saying the A word turn your device on?
There's a bunch of people saying it did. New York Jazz fan says, Andy Larson is upstairs spying on you guys. A lot of people lost their minds yesterday that I credited Andy Larson on a tweet.
How could you do that, Monty? You hate Andy Larson. It's personal.
I don't hate him. I don't know Andy Larson, so I can't hate him.
I'll drop that mother.
Maybe this is the transition. I don't know.
Yes.
But speaking of Devery Davis, yes, absolutely. When you get ready to leave the state of California and come back to the promised land known as Jita, you should you should absolutely call Devery Davis, 801-543-9666. 801-543-9666. Call him today and tell him, hey, I heard about you on the Monty Show. That really helps us. Devery, I was talking to a guy 2 days ago on DM or text, I can't remember which, who talked about how Devery Davis did a mortgage for them. And without naming him, talking about, hey, you know what? He really did a good job for me. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's who Devery is. Devery's a guy that takes care of the people who call him at 801-543-9666. And I would encourage you to do that, whether you have a down payment or you don't. Devery's got programs to cover your down payment. If you think you can't afford it, sure you can. Because the other thing that you need to realize is home prices are now coming down. We've seen, hey, home prices are super high, overvalued. Housing prices are coming down now. The recession hasn't fully taken effect. You have mortgage rates that make it affordable for you to get a mortgage, to buy a home, because housing prices are low. Mortgage rates are coming down. There's all kinds of programs. For instance, if you're a law enforcement official, if you're a police officer, no money down to buy a house. If you're a veteran, no money down to buy a house. You have all of these incentives to go and buy homes. Do that today. Don't wait anymore. Call Devery Davis. Get pre-qualified. It costs you nothing to call Devery Davis and say, hey, am I qualified to buy a $400,000 house? Am I qualified? I really need another bedroom for my kids. Am I qualified to step up $100,000 in mortgage? It costs you nothing for Devery Davis to say, yeah, sure, and here's a letter that makes you a cash buyer when you're competing to get that house. That's what Devery does for you. 801-543-9666. Devery Davis, NMLS number 278545. Devery Davis, the Davis lending team at Academy Mortgage are equal housing lenders.